This week on Library Beat, Tuesday, April 25th, is National Library Workers' Day, and Karen and I want to shine the podcast spotlight on some of our hardest working and sometimes underappreciated colleagues, our pages, the ones who shelve and shelve and shelve. Here's our director, Adam Webb, talking about the extent of the work they do for us.
Last year, our collections assistants, or pages, if you use the local parlance, they shelved 261,572 items.
That's a lot of items to shelve.
That's a ton of items.
You have some shelving experience yourself, don't you?
I do. At one point, I was the page supervisor at the library.
So you can go from page supervisor to supervisor of everything.
The sky's the limit.
But shelving is actually one of the more important jobs in the library. Wouldn't you agree?
I would absolutely agree. If material isn't returned to its proper location and proper place, we might as well not have it. I mean, if you're literally talking about a needle in a haystack kind of situation, if something is misshelved badly enough, you'll never find it.
Would you like to say anything about the job our pages do?
They are the unsung heroes of the library and probably the most important job here.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Coming up, we'll hear from some of our pages, past and present, but here's Karen and Tiffany Howe having a discussion about the fine art of shelving.
She herself was a library page in Denver.
It's true.
Can you tell me some things that are different between Denver and here?
Well, for one thing, the name. Well, and I guess
Smart
now
ass.
pages. No. In Denver, we were known as shelvers, and so while I was doing my undergraduate degree in Denver, I was a shelver for 30 hours a week at Denver Public Library. And it was wonderful. I would be in English classes, and so I would listen to Shakespeare plays while I was
On your
shelving.
Walkman?
On my what? On my Walkman. It was a Walkman.
Yeah.
Yes. I had my Walkman till
Because this had to
30.
be like in the early 90s?
The later 90s.
Oh, the later 90s.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Later 90s.
Yeah, so I loved it, actually. I love the job of being a shelver or a page or a collections assistant, whatever you want to call it, because it's like Zen in the art of shelving. You put things back in order and you get to see all the books and make it look nice. I've always loved shelving.
When you were a shelver in Denver, did you just do children's department or did you do adult or did you a little bit of everything?
We were at a branch, so it was a smallish branch. So I shelved everything. And then I did something called router, which is similar to work we do here now, where we pull holds for folks. So
On
that
shelf
was
holds,
my
yes.
favorite job, because it was like it was like a treasure hunt, and things were often out of order because of the other shelvers. And so I'd have to hunt and find things and think, like, if I were going to misshelve this, where would I?
You know,
where
a lot
would I
of
look?
people here love to do on shelf holds
I do.
because of that. It's like a mystery.
Yes.
Then you got to route them to different places,
I
which we
did.
do to a degree, but you got to go to different libraries and
Yeah, we had like, I don't know, like at that time, maybe 12, 15 locations that we'd send them
Wow.
to. So yeah, it was a big library system.
that's a cool job.
Yeah, I loved it. It was one of my very favorite jobs.
Well, nowadays, here at the Garland County Library, these days, we have what we used to call pages. We now call them collections assistant.
Which is still hard to remember.
It
So I
is
still
so
think
hard.
of them as pages.
I don't know I still can't remember my
title.
title,
Yeah.
whatever I do. But tell me, how many collections assistants, let's call them CAs,
CAs, I like that.
do you have in the children's department?
Currently, I have 3 wonderful collections assistants. I have Mason, Romesa, and Ashley as my collections assistants. And then we also have a work study student named Yulia, and she is from National Park, and she helps us with some paging duties as well, some CA duties.
Great. Well, the CA duties, they cover a lot of things. It's
do.
just not putting books on the shelf or items on the shelf.
Yes.
They also, in your department, they will help with programs and
Oh,
do some of
yes.
the gopher stuff, as I call it, go get and help clean up.
They're super important.
Yes,
And they have to be really flexible, and we always ask them, you know, when we're hiring new collections assistants, like, are you the kind of person who, you know, just hates being interrupted? Because if you are, this is probably
Yes.
whatever you do here, it's probably not the job
Yes.
for you, because there's constant interruptions, and so sometimes they're the first people that patrons encounter. So we
Right.
want them to be friendly and
Helpful.
helpful, and they are. And we're really lucky right now, and mostly we've had a bunch of great ones over the years, but they really want to help the patrons, and
And it's hard in children's because your books are really tiny.
they are tiny.
Where
yes.
in the adult world, we do have some tiny ones, but ours are mainly, you know, like regular hardcover books. And you have the easy books where just full of pictures and they're
So
really thin.
Yes.
So your carts are a lot different from our carts.
They
Our
really
carts may
are.
have, you know, 100 books on it. Your cart's going to have like 200 books
Yeah,
on
at
it.
least, yeah. It's
So
wild.
it takes a good individual, a dedicated individual to
Yes.
shelve those
Yes.
tiny printed spine labels that I can't see half the time.
Yes, and then you've got kids who come in, and you know they love the books, and we want them to handle the books and see the books, but then they might stick the books back on the shelves in
Yes.
all the wrong places, and so sometimes the poor CAs come in and we'll just, you know, have to redo an entire section because
Or what we call
somebody's come
reading a section, which they go through and make
Yes.
sure that the books are in order. And we try to do that often over here,
in. Yes,
or the CAs do over here.
yes,
But we do try to go through and make sure. But, you know, things are going to happen. People,
Absolutely.
you know, pick up a book and they accidentally put it back in the wrong place. But I'm glad the kids are handling books. Books are so important in
They
young
are so
lives.
important. It's true. And we have usually our collections assistants, the people who are attracted to this job, whether they're kids or grown-ups, they love books, you know.
Yes.
And so that's part of the thrill of the job is getting to see all the different books. And, you know, usually they'll have a stack that they want to check out, you know, at the end of the week or the end of the night, just because they're book lovers. You almost
Yes.
have to be to be around them as much as they are.
Yes, and they're also readers advisory. They come in
Absolutely.
and I want to read something like Jenny B. Jones, or I want Hardy Boys,
Mm-hmm.
anything like. So they have to kind of know. Well, if you like Hardy Boys, you'll like this.
Yes.
Like a reader's advisory.
Yes. And they use they now know, you know, because we've got so many tools at our
Yes.
disposal. So they'll go to Novelist. They know to do that. And, okay, if you like this book, let's plug it in and see what else there is. So they have to know about our physical collection, but we want them to know about our digital
Digital,
resources
yes.
as well. And they're very good. They like to learn. So
Yes.
we've got a great bunch of
We have a
CAs.
great bunch of CAs, our new name for Pages CAs.
Yes. And historically, we've had a lot of CAs. I don't know about you guys, but over the years in children's, you know, we've had several people start as collections assistants or shelvers or pages or whatever, and end up, you know, years later in library school.
Yes.
And Katie Allen is a great example of that. She started when she was, I guess, 16 and has
Yes.
pretty much been here ever since. And
Yeah,
she's
she's-
not the only one.
No, Megan was Megan.
Megan was, yes, absolutely. Brittany, I know she recently moved on to become a media specialist, and we miss her and we love her and we're so proud of her.
Oh, yes. She won an
She won
award.
another award.
Award,
Yeah.
yes.
And she also started as a young person, so it's a great way, I think, for some people to figure out, you know, is this something I might like to do as a career. Carson is one of our former collections assistants, and he said that, and I remember him saying that in his interview, like, I want to test this out because the library seems like a place I might like to spend a lot of time and make a future. So it's a great way to dip your toe into library work and see
Library
if you
work is
wanna-
great. It's fun. I mean, it's stressful.
Yes.
Caitlin, my daughter, raised
Yes.
as your children were in the library, and she wants to be a library media specialist.
Oh, I love that.
You know, so she knows how it kind of goes. She comes and volunteers sometimes. But the job of a collections assistant is so important because
is.
they have to know where the book goes and they put it there, or the item.
Yes.
And then when somebody wants to check it out, we have to be able to find it. So it's just not, let's just put all the blue books right here
Right.
and all the red books right here.
Yeah.
They have to be very detail oriented.
They do, and it's a very long process to get them there. We I know you do too, because we've done interviews together where we warn people like, okay, well, we're going to start you shelving those items on their side so that we can go back and look and make sure you got those in the right place. And it's going to feel like we're testing you, and kind of we are.
We are.
But it takes some time, and don't get discouraged. And so we go kind of collection by collection, and until they can get things in order regularly. And so there's a lot of kind of training put
Yes,
into
because there's a
it.
lot of books out there, a lot of items.
Tons, and a lot of different collections
Yes.
and kind of different, not a ton of different rules, but somewhat, things are different, in easies than they are in nonfiction.
Right.
And, everybody has something that they find easier or harder to shelve, but it's a process just to get them trained and on board and enthusiastic and not discouraged, because that's a long process. And
It is.
It's hard because you're being judged, every
And
day.
it's overwhelming out there.
It is.
In the sections, you can do a cart of books and put those in order, but when you go out and there's 50,000 volumes, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. And we've had some people that just, this is not for them, and that's fine. That's
Absolutely.
every job is like that.
Yes.
But
Yeah, it's a lot.
it is, and people think working in the library is just really easy and you're sitting back reading books. No, you're shelving,
Yes.
hundreds of thousands of items a year.
And they never stop coming.
No.
Your job is never ever done. Ever. And so that's a great thing. That means folks are checking out our items
Exactly.
and returning them, but it's a
ongoing.
challenging job.
You're never
Yes,
done with
yes.
that at the end of the day.
It's true.
There's always going to be something else to shelve, which
And
is great.
It is great, yeah. And it's very physical too.
Yes, you're up and down and shifting
yes.
books.
Yeah, I remember even as a young person when they warned me about that
In the
Denver,
early
like,
90s.
And the let's date Tiffany, see how old she is. In the later 90s, when I was in school, and they warned me when I got hired at Denver Public. They're like, it's a really, really physical job, so you just need to be aware of that. And I'm like, no problem. Yeah. And I seriously, the first couple of weeks, I went home and felt like I'd been hit by a truck.
Yes.
Just because it's a lot.
You're on your feet a lot.
Yes,
You're up and down.
lifting things. And
Yes.
moving all around and pushing carts and.
Dealing with people, and
Dealing with people,
they come
yeah.
first. Customer service
Yes.
is a must, and
sure.
You're helping people. And sometimes you want to get this cart finished, but you need to help find some items or do
Yes.
on shelf holds.
Yes, sometimes do gross things too.
Yes,
We do
unfortunately.
have, and especially in the children's department, there's all kinds of
Accidents.
mishaps.
Accidents and mishaps.
Yes, and so sometimes I try not to leave this to the pages, but sometimes they are the ones that end up, if there's throw up,
Or other stuff.
or other substances, then they might be the ones, helping with that. And, and then throw in the fun stuff too. They get the bad stuff, but they get the good stuff, helping with programs, preparing,
Cutting out
crafts.
things. Yeah, crafts.
Yes. And our pages are super duper creative, the ones we have right now. And so they actually actively, email us program ideas and do some of our displays, and we try to find kind of
Balance it.
Yes, yeah, balance it. And if we know they have a certain kind of interest, then letting them have a little bit of a creative outlet as well.
Oh, yes.
Because I like kind of the monotony, I guess, of putting things in order. But it can get old, and so we try to balance that where we can. Where they might have a special task once a week or something that they can work on. That's not putting items back on the shelf or putting them in order or
right.
reading them. So
Because that will get a little
it does.
dull.
It does, but it's fun too.
But it is fun.
Yeah, and they can listen to music. If they as long
The
as they're
pages,
paying
the
attention.
CAs can. That's something that they
Yes.
get to do that clerks do not get
Absolutely.
to do. Yes.
Yes,
Because we
and-
know out there in the stacks, it's I can't say the word.
Yes, monotonous.
Thank you.
Yes. And so that's something that I think helps them as long as they're paying attention to the customers. You kind of have, as a former shelver who did this a lot, you kind of have to know what you can listen to, where you can still think and put numbers in order or letters in order. But
Yes.
they figure it out.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it works out for them. So that's something that's I'm glad we can do for them.
Yes, just a little something.
Yeah.
When you worked at Denver in the 90s, what
the
was
early
your
90s.
favorite book to shelve?
You know what my least favorite book to shelf. If you've listened to all the podcasts, you might have heard me talk about the Mad Chopper, which was a terrible true crime book.
It has a horrible cover on it. It's a horrible story.
Yes.
And she brings us up all the time.
Dreadful. I have some trauma, clearly. But I will say that probably my favorite books to shelve were the children's books, because I always loved children's books, which is why it's good that I work in
The children's
youth
department.
services. Yes. Yeah.
Or cats.
Or CATS, Children's and Youth Service. Children's and Teen Services, not K's. CATS.
Cats.
Yes, and I love cats, so it
Yeah.
works out beautifully that that's our little acronym.
Thank you, Miss Tiffany, for sharing your page experiences with the audience.
Miss Karen, thank you so much for having me. I love spending time with you and Greg.
Thanks to Tiffany for chatting with us. Now I'm going to talk to Paul Kagabine, who is one of our former pages who worked his way up to being adult programs coordinator.
My very first job at the library and my very first job in general was a page. I started back in high school when I was 17 here, and that lasted about a year and a half, almost 2 years.
Okay, so when you were 17, you came in for your very first job. Do you remember what that experience was like, coming to your very first job for the very first time?
Yes. Well, just the interview process was very intimidating because I didn't know what to expect. And it was John Wells, the former director at the library, and he's a very tall man.
He's a little imposing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's a nice guy, but, he definitely likes to challenge people. So he has some hard-hitting questions, and I can't even tell you what they were, but I was underprepared. But my friend who worked here, Adam Bramlett, he was a page at the time. He put in a good word for me, and I got the job.
Did you know what you were getting yourself into?
I understood that paging was all about shelving books, but little did I know it was so much more than that.
It can be a little bit more. We always say when we're interviewing people, and other duties as assigned. But let's just talk about shelving for a moment, because someone who has not spent 8 hours a day shelving books probably doesn't understand exactly what that experience is like. What is it like to come into the library and you see just carts and carts of books that need to be shelved? How do you feel when you see all those carts?
Well, I think it depends on who you are and how you feel about books. It can either sound like the most overwhelming and boring thing in the world, or a gateway to all of these worlds that books encompass.
Oh, that's a great way of looking at it. How did you, like, when you were spending hours and hours a day shelving, were you able to, did you have to just focus on your job, or were you able to let your mind wander into what those other worlds were?
It was a little bit of both. Starting out, you have to be very meticulous about it because there is a very specific filing system in the Dewey Decimal System. If you've never encountered it before, there's definitely a learning curve to it. And the same applies to fiction, which doesn't use the Dewey Decimal System, but there's different genre classifications and large print, and even just organizing something alphabetically, title by author. Some of those authors out there that have all of these series and numbered books, and your James Pattersons and your Danielle Steeles, that can get a little blurry, and it's easy to make mistakes. But once you've gotten past your initial training period, it's definitely a little easier to go on autopilot and shelve and let your mind wander and see books that catch your eye.
I know you're a pretty organized, meticulous person, and you like to keep lists of things and that type of thing. Did those attributes, you think, assist you in the paging world?
I would say so. I mean, I think there's some overlap in it. At least my mind works in a way where I'm comfortable with that, but it's definitely not for everybody.
Every once in a while, I'll go out there and shelve a little bit, just to get the rust off. And I do okay with fiction, but nonfiction, the numbers are too small, and as I get older, I cannot track the Dewey Decimal numbers if they go beyond, like 3 or 4 digits. So
yes,
I think that's a good reason why it appeals to young people, because you have better eyeballs.
Yes, and there's even then there's some sections out there in the nonfiction section where there's hundreds, if not thousands, of books on the topic, like cookbooks or gardening or the graphic novels. And they're so thin that the books are so thin that the numbers have to wrap around both sides of the book when we put our stickers on.
Let's talk about other duties as assigned.
Oh, boy.
A lot of times the pages end up doing the things that just nobody else wants to do. The example that Karen always uses is the dead possum in the parking lot. Did you ever have to deal with any dead possums?
No dead possums specifically, but my very first day at the library as a page, we have something called a walk, where there's these security walks, and you go around the building and just make sure everything's in order, things are tidied up, and that those have changed a bit since the day I was a page. But my very first walk by myself, it was at the end of the day, and I walked into the restroom, and there was a man sitting on the floor barefoot.
Oh, great.
And he was wiping his feet down with paper towels, and I guess they were wet, I hope from the sink and not the toilet.
Right.
But he was patting his feet down, and we make eye contact, and he asked me, "Excuse me, do you have any talcum powder?" and I didn't know what that was, and I went back up and I asked probably Mr. Wells. I was like, "Hey, there's a man asking if we have talcum powder."
Did we have any talcum powder?
We did not.
Oh, okay. Well, that was a pretty eye-opening experience for your first day on the paging job. Are there any other things that happened along the way that are memorable or stick out in any way?
There are, but there's some stories I don't know if you want me to share. Most of them involve the bathroom.
Right. The pages often get called to the bathroom to deal with situations. So, yes, maybe we should just leave that to our listeners' imaginations.
Yes, I won't tell the story of the poopatrator.
Thank you, Paul.
There was one bathroom incident I can share. One time I walked in and discovered a bag of loose marbles in the sink.
Somebody lost their marbles.
That's exactly right. And I mentioned that, and someone made that announcement on the intercom, which was funny. Attention, patrons, if you have lost your marbles, please come to the front desk to claim them.
I think a lot of people have probably lost their marbles at the library. Let's see, is there anything else about your paging life? Are you ever like wistful or nostalgic for those days?
No.
No.
No. Like I said, I was a page for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and even though I do like lists and organizing things, at some point, more power to pages that lasted longer than that, some of which we have on staff now. But yeah, it just wasn't for me. I needed to be around people more than instead of in the stacks. And so I actually left the library for a couple of years and tried some other jobs. And I did miss this place a lot in the being here. But I found a better job positions that were more suitable for me since then.
I agree. But I bet that if we put a cart in front of you, you would have it shelved in no time.
That's right. Yeah, I was down to like 18 minutes per cart, something like that.
Dang.
I do remember one day we had our old system, what was it called? Horizon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the current system we have, and there's some offline functionality. So if our internet goes down, then we're not completely hopeless. But the old system went down, I think, for about 3 days.
Yeah.
And
so everything just piled up. We couldn't check anything in, so they just piled up on carts, and we had to check everything in at once.
Yes.
And then you got to shelve.
Yes,
all of it.
I think it had. We were up to 37 carts. That sounds about right. And there were maybe 3 or 4 pages employed at that time, and we all got invited in on a Saturday morning. And somehow by the end of the day, we shelved all high 30 number of carts I think at some point the pages worked out this system where instead of each going out and doing our own cart, we would just take one cart and divide it into 3 or 4,
All right.
and it seemed like it went so much faster that way.
Tag team carts.
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you for reminiscing about your paging days, Paul. Is there anything else about paging you would like our listeners to hear?
I think if you are curious about working at the library and you like being around books, it's a great gateway job into the library. And I think I want to give a shout out to all of our pages, current and past, because I think it's one of the jobs that gets a little overshadowed or
Right.
they're more under the radar. And it's definitely work that's not for everybody, and it's a tough job that takes careful eyes. So shout out to all of our pages.
My name is Taylor, and I am the head page here at the Garland County Library. I've been working here since about 2011. I worked as a page for quite a long time here.
Yes.
And then eventually became a clerk, and then went on to do some other things here. But
Right.
yeah, paging was my main go-to thing. And
Right. And you were such a great page. I don't know if we can say all-time best. That might not be fair to some others, but it seemed like
You're in the top 5.
definitely in the top
4.
5, because it seems like things would need to be done, and we'd look around. Oh, we need somebody to do such and such, and we'd look over, and Taylor had already done it without anyone
Read our minds.
without even anyone knowing that it had been done. What made you decide to apply for a job at the library?
Well, probably like a lot of people who work here, I'd been coming to the library my whole life and, loved books and all that stuff. So that was kind of the thing that really drew me to it. I'd known some other people who'd worked here in the past, and they'd had good things to say about it. So, yeah, it was just kind of the culture and everything, which
Right.
is what I still love about it.
So when you actually did start doing it, did you understand beforehand that you would probably be spending like 8 hours a day shelving books?
It's definitely kind of, I was surprised for everybody, I think, what expectations are at the library, because it is a very busy place. I think a lot of people go into it thinking it's pretty chill and quiet and stuff. But so it was definitely a learning experience. But I really did like kind of being out there in the stacks where it's quiet and getting to kind of take care of things. And
It is a little bit quieter out there, but sometimes people, Melinda mentioned that she really enjoys it because people come up and ask her questions.
yes.
Which you might get more out there because people are actually out there looking for things.
Yes, that is one of the upsides to being a page. And you also kind of know maybe where things are, or more obscure things, kind of better than just somebody, who's looking on a computer and stuff.
That's what Melinda said too.
Yeah, so we kind of have a different view of the collection, I think. And so that does kind of help us narrow things down if people don't really know what they're looking for sometimes.
Right. Have you ever been just physically worn out from shelving?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that
But
was
the day after holidays got you.
Yeah, that's definitely, it's like, seemed like the summertime too. There'd just be like tons of books coming in for the reading programs and stuff. And yeah, those could be pretty exhausting. When we would shift shelves too, there's some pretty, physically demanding parts of it out there, moving books around and making room for new stuff. So yeah, it could be pretty tiring.
Yes. One thing we always try to tell the pages when they're in their first interview before they ever come work here is that there will be other duties as assigned. And it seems like a lot of times the pages end up getting the jobs that no one else wants, kind of the cleanups and
Yes.
getting huge donations. We remember years ago, we had one page worked here. His name was Marcus, and he was very young, probably 16.
He's in
For a lot
high
of people,
school,
this is their
yes,
first
first
job.
job.
Right.
And it was in the middle of the summer, probably 100 degrees outside, and that doorbell over at the Friends rang. And so someone had to go get a donation. So, or someone said they were coming to donate something. So we sent Marcus out there, and maybe an hour.
Forgot about him.
An hour later, I was
Realized.
like, "Where's Marcus?"
Oh no.
And he had been standing out there waiting for someone to donate their books for like an hour
This is hard.
in the 100-degree heat. So that's
Oh
kind of
dear.
typical of the things that pages might have to do.
Yes,
Do
yeah.
you-
There's
do
a
you-
lot of random, obscure things that happen around here that sometimes fall on us.
Has can you recall any specific incident of other duties as required?
I mean, there's always been, like the weird donation stuff or, just weird messes in the parking lot and stuff like that.
Dead animals in the parking lot.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's always some strange surprises around here and stuff. Off the top of my head, I can't think of.
And I think pages have helped us if someone has fallen or have a medical emergency. Pages have been very good about running and getting the emergency kit or calling 911. Because sometimes these things happen in the stacks and they're the first
Right.
to respond. So thank you, pages.
Yeah, absolutely. That is one of the things, kind of being out there in the outer depths of
The Outer
things.
Banks.
Yeah, it's kind of a different world out there sometimes, and you can see things, maybe first line defense sometimes. But
So now that you are head page, and so you're in charge of training the new pages who come on board, teaching them how to shelve, what's that experience like?
it's been really interesting and fun. It's trying to just kind of pass on the things that I've learned over the years and stuff, and see maybe if we can change things up a little bit to make things either work a little better or more interesting or something. I've really enjoyed it, and it's a nice break for me to still kind of get out and do things like that, since my job's mostly working in an office now. So
Right.
yeah, it's been a good experience. We got a really good group of pages here, so they're all great to work with. And
We do have a very
We
good.
do. They're
we
real
have
fun.
A very good group right now. I know when they first start, we kind of teach them the basics of shelving, putting a cart together in order, and then they go out into the stacks, and
Yeah.
we actually check what they've done for a while to make sure that they actually know what they're doing. And some people catch on to it faster than others. And then I think we've had some people who have gotten out there and they've said, "Oh, no, this is not
Yes.
not for me."
yeah, when we interview, we'll usually have them put together like a little cart, and that it's usually they can do that, and it's usually pretty good. But then when you're out there in the stacks and you realize that there's like thousands and thousands of books around you, and every single one has to be put in exactly the right spot. It's a little intimidating, but yeah, that's definitely detail-oriented people are really good at the job because that's kind of what it's all about.
Yeah, because if it's shelved incorrectly, then we can't find it, you can't find it, then.
Yeah, that leads to lots of headaches.
Yeah. So I think it's one of the most important jobs in the
Yes.
library because we have to be able to find things.
Find things for
Right.
people to check out.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that some of the pages are really good at is finding things that we can't find. It
Yes.
seems like you can kind of reverse engineer the mistake that was initially made. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, sometimes it works out for us, sadly sometimes it doesn't. But like you said, reverse engineer it. You can kind of get inside of the way some people might think. Maybe if you've seen something shelved wrong a couple times, you can kind of think, oh, maybe it would be here. Or we've got so many different collections and different kind of spots it could be in that sometimes you can narrow it down that way by, maybe it's in mystery when it's supposed to be in fiction and stuff like that. But
And sometimes it's just having another set of eyeballs on it. It happened to me
Yes.
this morning. I could not find the DVD of the Valley of the Dolls.
It was almost a lockdown.
I should probably be embarrassed that I wanted it. But as I mentioned in another segment we did, I was reading a book about that. And Karen walked right over and found it. So sometimes.
Right. Sometimes you can look right at something and not see it. And
Right.
yeah, it's happened to me plenty of
It
times
happens
too.
to all of us. We will look at it and we won't realize that's what we're looking for. And then the
Yeah.
next person comes along and, well, it's right there.
Right.
Karen, is there anything else about the world of paging that we need to ask our head page about?
Taylor, I think, has covered it all. It is very detail oriented. There's a lot of work to it. It's more
Oh, yeah.
physical than you would think, especially when we moved the children's section and we
Yeah.
filled in the old story pit. And we had to move all the books. That was a big move right there. So it is physical.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But it's good to kind of get a workout now and then. out
Yes,
there.
and it is, but it is fun to know all the books.
Oh,
and-
yeah.
and you'll find something that you want to read.
Yeah, that is another plus to it. I am always finding new books that I'm interested in and want to check out and stuff just by kind of shelving them. So that's definitely a plus to being out there. Yeah, I'd just say thank you to all the pages out there too, because they're doing a great job, and really a lot of this place would be a lot harder to run without them.
Yes, and chaos if we didn't have our pages.
Yes.
That's true. We don't want chaos. Thank you very much, Taylor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Hi, I'm Angel. I'm a technical services coordinator.
Very good. But you haven't always been a technical services coordinator.
I-
For a little while, when you first started, what was your job?
I was a page.
How did you like doing that?
I loved paging. It's really nice and peaceful out in the stacks.
Yes.
And you still get to help people,
Right.
but you get to be in your own little world.
Right. But there are some challenges associated with it.
Yes, first of all, the low shelves.
Yes.
They're hard on your knees.
You have to bend down a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
And sometimes the shelves get unorganized, so you have to rearrange things back in order,
Right.
make the shelves look pretty.
Do you miss those quiet days of being out there by yourself?
I do sometimes miss paging.
You kind of get to sit back here by yourself sometimes. don't you?
Yeah.
But it's not quite the same.
No, it's not the same. The shelves are so nice and peaceful out there.
Is there anything else you would like to say about paging?
I appreciate our pages, and they do a lot of hard work.
They sure do. Thank you, Angel.
Mhm.
All right. I am talking to Melinda Kennard, who is a longtime page. How long have you been with us, Melinda?
A little over 5 years.
Dang.
5.5 years, yeah.
So you have shelved a lot of DVDs.
Yes.
So we can describe to our listeners what you're doing right now. We've got a cart of DVDs that have just been returned here, and you are going through and putting them in order, and then you're going to shelve
In
them?
order, making sure there's none that need to be clean, making sure they're all okay, and putting them back on the shelf.
So what do you like about being a page?
Pretty much everything. I like, one of the, I guess, hazards is I see a lot of books and DVDs that I'm like, oh, I got to read that, or I got to see that. I like helping people out. I like getting to interact with people and doing my job, yeah.
So on an average day, have you ever thought about how many things you probably shelve?
Honestly, no, no, but
A lot.
a lot, yeah. Hundreds, probably.
Right. Very good. I know sometimes we ask the pages to do the things that nobody else wants to do, and I'm sorry about that. Does that ever happen to you?
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah.
Go check the ladies' room or do something like that, but
Right.
not that often.
What do you do when you're not shelving things, like in your real life?
I love movies. I'm a huge classic movie fan. I'm either watching movies or hanging out with my dog or something like that.
Do you, since you shelve and keep things so organized at work, do you do the same thing in your personal life?
I try. Not as well, though.
Right. Do you ever dream about shelving?
Honestly, yes.
Do you really?
Occasionally, yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't sound like a very fun dream.
Not usually, but yeah, I sometimes do.
Is there anything about being a page that I haven't asked you that you think people would find interesting?
Myself and the other pages, we're usually the people that people see first
Right.
when they are looking for something or they want to know if we have a book or a DVD. We're usually the people that they see first, and hopefully we can help them find. I've been shelving nonfiction so long I can sometimes know where something is right off the top of my head.
That's right.
So
You probably know where everything is. That's a good skill to have.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even need to look it up. You could just tell us.
some of them, yeah.
Excellent. Wow. Well, thank you very much, Melinda. Keep up
you.
the good work, and thank you for getting so much shelving done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My name's Ashley, and I've been here at the library about 1.5 years, and in Hot Springs about 2.5 years.
Very good. We want to highlight all the great work that our pages do. And you have kind of an interesting story because you started off as a clerk. It's usually the other way around. Like a lot of times pages decide they're tired of shelving books and they would rather work behind the desk helping
Right.
people. But you did the opposite.
Yeah, I did. So I did start out at clerking, and I did that, I guess, for about 9 months. But I had an opportunity to switch to paging, which I think was just personally a better choice for me. A little bit more low key. I really like being in the stacks. I'm a little OCD and I like things organized. So shelving is actually really relaxing for me. And it really gives you a chance to be in the collection and know where books are and know what patrons are looking for. Oh, I've seen that title, or oh, I know what story you're talking about. And I really just truly enjoy it, for me personally, better than being at the desk.
Yeah.
It's just a better fit for me. I used to teach, and I just needed a little break from teaching. And this has been a fantastic place to stay in an educational element, but with a little bit less chaos.
One thing about the children's books is that a lot of them are lower to the ground
Definitely.
than the books in the adult. So do you feel like you get a workout from doing lots of
Squats,
squatting down?
absolutely. I've definitely noticed some benefits there as well. It can be a challenge sometimes, like you said, and I've got knee and hip problems. So like today, I'm just kind of roaming around and getting a bang for my buck, seeing what I can shelve quickly. One of the other things that I really like to do, though, is the book displays, kind of highlighting different holidays or different themes we've got going on, or just whatever people are interested, like dinosaurs. I'm getting ready to do one for dinosaurs. It's long overdue. And that's really enjoyable.
Long overdue, because
Yes.
dinosaurs go right.
Yeah,
yes.
it's been a while. So I'm really looking forward to doing that. And it's just nice to be able to pop up and help people find the books that they're looking for. And that's really rewarding.
You said that you really appreciate things being in order. A lot of times, especially with kids, these books don't stay in order. How
Right.
does that make you feel?
It definitely keeps you on your toes. I have a good eye for things that are out of place, like in the stacks, in the book stacks. So that's a benefit for me to be like, oh, well, that doesn't belong there, but somebody looked at it. For me, it's really neat because I get to see what patrons are maybe looking at, but not perhaps checking out, and just kind of see what people are interested in. It can get a little frustrating at times, but it's also really rewarding and satisfying to be able to put things back where they belong for me. But I like doing that kind of stuff.
Have you ever dreamed about shelving?
No, surprisingly not. I think that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. Thank you for sharing your paging experiences with us, and thank you
Absolutely.
for all the hard work.
Yes, good to work with you guys and to work for Garland County.
Nathan, I'm a page.
And you've been doing this for quite a while.
I've been doing this about 5 years now.
5 years. And what do you like about your job?
I love being able to just put everything back and make everything tidy, make all the books clean, and
Is it satisfying when things are in order?
it really is.
What's it like when things aren't in order?
It's not as good. It helps motivate me.
Right, very good. You're one of the longest sticking around us pages that we've had.
Really?
And we definitely appreciate all the hard work that you do. But you tend to kind of go under the radar a little bit. Is that intentional?
Mostly a shy person anyways.
You
but-
are a little bit shy, and I appreciate you. One thing that we always tell pages is that there are other duties as assigned. Have you ever had any other duties as assigned?
Kind of. I've kind of helped.
Okay, Chris, I'm related.
In other aspects, like I've helped check people out, and I've helped, do whatever needs to be done.
Right. Have you ever had to do anything that was disgusting?
A few times.
Do you want to go into any details or not?
That's okay.
Okay. Describe just sort of a typical day for you when you come into work, because usually you come in and you work just a few hours in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I come in late, I feel like I've missed the first part of the movie. Does it ever feel like that?
It's mostly, it's I come in and I just, as if there's anything that needs to be shelved, I'll go do that, and
You
then
shelve it.
once that's done, I'll go look and see if anything, like if there's anything to tidy up or
Right.
take care of. And
Are you tidy in your home life too?
I try to be.
Yeah.
Doesn't always. It's not as tidy as I try to do up here, but I try.
What do you do when you're not working?
I like to read, which should be obvious here.
Right.
I play video games and hang out with my family.
Very nice. Is there anything about being a page that you think people should know?
It's a fun job. Most people would think, it's just shelving books, but it's, you get to help people and you get to help show them where a book is, and it's a fun job. It's more fun than it seems.
Okay. Thank you, Nathan. You were perfect. Thank you. And thank you for all the thousands of things you've shelved. And thank you to our guests, Adam, Tiffany, Paul, Taylor, and Angel, and especially to our pages, Melinda, Ashley, and Nathan, and the ones we didn't get a chance to speak to because they were just too busy shelving, Eli, Cody, Mason, Romacia, and Yulia, and thanks for listening.